And welcome back to Sunday Square Off. Two bills at the Capitol would allow Arizona families to use school vouchers to send their children to out-of-state schools. The vouchers, known as empowerment scholarship accounts, help families pay for private or parochial schools with taxpayer dollars. Now, this comes just 2 years after Arizona voters overwhelmingly rejected a statewide voucher expansion. So, why is this proposed expansion moving ahead? Joining us are Republican Representative Regina Cobb of Kingman, she's sponsoring one of the bills, and Dawn Penich-Thacker of Save Our Schools Arizona, which led the fight against the 2018 expansion with Prop 305. Thanks very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Now, these two expansions are relatively small for children on the Navajo Reservation in far eastern Arizona, children on the reservation in northern Arizona, and children in Colorado City, a polygamous community on the border with Utah. And I think they initially targeted about 11 kids overall. Is that right?
They initially targeted three.
Three.
In the Colorado City area.
Right, and then
10 in the Navajo Nation.
10, so a very small number of students. Yes. We'll get to that in a moment, but Dawn Thacker, why are these expansions moving ahead despite what happened in the vote on Prop 305?
You know, I think there are a lot of very powerful, very high dollar national special interests in privatizing education, in getting more kids into private and religious schools and kind of cutting back on our support of public schools. But as you know, we have 95% of Arizona students are choosing either public district or public charter schools. And so that's why 65% of voters asked not to expand this program 2 years ago, and why the two proposals are extremely unpopular with regular people, because it feels like one of those things where lobbyists and politicians are not hearing what regular people are talking about. You know, one thing I really admire about Representative Cobb is she's fighting really hard on water rights right now. She's talking about it as a finite resource that we have to protect. And that's how regular people feel about our education funding. Okay. We need to protect it. It's a finite resource. We can't be pouring it into other states.
Well, I just want to go back to Prop 305 for a minute, because a lot of people might not know it did. Even though there was an overwhelming vote against the expansion, it still allows expansions, correct?
Yeah,
what
we said in 2018, the voters, is we don't want everyone in Arizona to be getting a private school voucher. Right now, it's just for kids who have certain qualifying conditions, so foster care, special needs. But this would say, if you have this voucher, you can go to California with it, you can go to Utah and New Mexico.
So just to establish, voucher expansions are still allowed, just not to the extent that was desired.
They're allowed, but they're not wanted.
Okay, let's let Representative Cobb have her say. So, targeting a small number of students. Why target such a small number of students, and why allow them to spend the tax dollars out of state?
Bram, last year when the Navajo Nation, when those 10 kids were targeted and Colorado City was targeted, these kids are some of our most vulnerable children on the nation and in Colorado City. That community has been victimized. They have a school home. They have a school home, and now they're asked to be taken away from that school home. When we're talking about expanding this, we're not expanding it. We're allowing the same kids to be utilizing what they were utilizing before. There's a high number of special need kids up in that Colorado City area, and the school is a school of 45 kids, and they pretty much specialize in special needs.
So what's changed up there? Did they have a school that no longer exists?
They had the monastery school that was in Colorado City. It grew, and so they moved it across the border into another location.
Oh, so the school moved into another state. And now they want to go to that school in another state.
That community it's across the street pretty much. And so it was the availability of what they could do in Utah. The other thing is when the Department of Justice came in with the Colorado City area and they asked for subdividing, Utah was years ahead of us in subdividing in the community. And so they were able to build out, do a lot more with their dollars than we have in Arizona. So we just actually got subdivided on the Colorado City side in this last year. So now they're starting to do a lot of building, and they're working towards that. But at this point, to have a school of 45 kids was difficult.
Okay, so Dawn, you seem to be questioning that.
Well, and I think that's exactly what's at the heart of the opposition to these bills. We need to be building up Arizona communities. We need to be building up Arizona schools. You know, of course, we're going to be behind other states if we're giving them our tax dollars instead of bringing great teachers here into Arizona, bringing resources into Arizona. We have roads that need these tax dollars. We have schools that need these tax dollars. So instead of saying, you know, let's change state law in one of the most tortured kind of ways I've seen the wording of these bills. Let's invest in our communities. We have a choice of where we live. We choose to live in Arizona because we want to build up Arizona. You know, and no one's telling these kids, no one's telling anyone.
I know.
Let Representative Kopp have her say.
No one's telling these kids they can't go to their schools. We're just saying if you're using tax dollars, then choose one of the many private schools, charter schools, or district schools in
respond.
Arizona, because there are many.
Don, I disagree with the way she said the bill is written. The bill is written very well. It says that if you're on a nation and you have two borders, then or two states that cross your nation, then you can use it if it's within 2 miles. Within 2 miles of the border, and in Colorado City is the same way. Within 2 miles of that border, there's only 2 communities that are, and this was so narrowly crafted that there's no way it could be used in California or any other area. I think I think what you are looking at is that there are people out there that are saying the sky is falling, and rather than looking at what the children are, these children, this is their school home, and and if Kathy Hoffman didn't take this away from them last year, I wouldn't be sitting here today defending these kids.
Okay, one last question. So it appears that the Indigenous caucus in the legislature opposes this. Sally Ann Gonzalez, Representative Sally Ann Gonzalez, asked why the legislature isn't funding programs to improve tribal schools rather than giving the kids money to go to out-of-state schools. How do you respond to that?
We are doing that. Project Rocket, one of the things that the governor
That's new this year.
That's new this year.
But I don't know if that's going to tribal schools yet. I'm not sure we know where that money's going. But let's talk about past years. What has the legislature done in recent years to help tribal schools?
When you look at the F schools, you're looking at schools that are usually in underserved areas, in areas that are in remote areas, like on the tribal schools. And that's because it's difficult to get teachers. This year, I've already worked on a school this year that's an F school, Peach Spring School, and we're doing a bill to put a crisis team in there. That school has been 15 years under, and I actually had to hold hostage Kathy Hoffman in my office and say, go out and look at that school. She went to all the other schools in my area but did not go to that school. And I said, you go out to that school. That's the school I want you to look at.
Don Pench-Thacker, 15 seconds, please, to respond.
Arizona tax dollars should be used to build up Arizona communities. Our schools need this funding. We've got a lot of things we should be focusing on. Arizona should be the priority of Arizona tax dollars.
Got to end it there. Don Pench-Thacker, Representative Regina Cobb, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
When we come back, our state lawmakers travel free all over the world, but do their junkets pay off for the folks here at home? Stay with us.